Mighty Mark and Old Dean Morris. The Fat Controller's engines like to be really useful. The Fat Controller adores his steam engines because they were always running on time, and they were always making him feel proud. And there were some who the Fat Controller always liked to give a second chance, such as the diesel engines, but there were some that have always been a credit to his railway, such as Dennis, Foco, Paxton, Rusty, and especially Mighty Mark. Mighty Mark was similar to Daisy when passengers go inside him, but unlike Daisy, he pulls coaches, and Mighty Mark was the kindest diesel who Sodor has ever known. He was lucky to be bought by the Fat Controller for pulling a lot of trucks and coaches, as well as delivering passengers inside him. However, he had not broken down or had an accident for a long time, and that had always made him feel proud. But a few days later, some things were about to change. Mighty Mark had been assigned by the Fat Controller to take some garbage to the waste dump and some stones to the quarry. Mighty Mark didn't mind the hard work, but he still preferred taking passengers inside him as well as pulling them on his coaches. The trucks found Mighty Mark and were being very cheeky to him. "What an interesting mark on your forehead, mister," said the first truck. "Just because I had a mark, I have that N on my forehead, doesn't mean you trucks can laugh at us," said Mighty. "Come on, we don't have time for this." "Yeah," said Mark, "we've got to go." The trucks laughed and laughed. "Why are you Mighty, and why do you have a mark?" they said, and they all giggled and laughed. Mighty Mark growled and revved his engine. "Temper, temper," said the first truck. "That's it," said Mighty. "I've had enough of this," said Mark. Mark went backwards as Mighty went forwards. Soon Layla and Nertz were very surprised. "Don't!" they cried. "You're better than this." The two shut their eyes before Mighty pumped the trucks hard. The trucks were derailed, and unfortunately, Mighty had his buffers damaged. They were bent, and some were collapsing. Mighty felt a bit silly. No one was hurt, but soon Henry came to clean up the mess. The Fat Controller spoke severely to Mighty Mark. "I'm very disappointed in you both," he said. "That's not like you both at all." "Yes, sir, we're sorry, sir," said Mighty. "Now you will have to go to the workshop and be mended," he said. "This is not going to be good." "But sir," said Mark, "we didn't mean to. We're really sorry." The Fat Controller spoke kindly to them. "I know you didn't," he admitted, "but like I said, you'll all be going to the workshop to get your buffers mended. You'll have a new coat of paint, and then when that's over, you will be back on service again." "Thank you, sir," they said. "No problem," he said, and he walked away. The mess was already cleaned up, and Henry began to tease Mighty Mark. "Fancy your first ever accident," he said. Looks like you weren't a credit to our railway for long," he said cheekily, and he puffed away and laughed. Mark tried to growl, but he took no notice of Henry. At last, however, Mighty Mark went into this workshop with a set of buffers in front of him. He buffered to the buffers and still unfortunate that Mark had to go backwards because the buffers wouldn't allow Mighty to rest his buffers since they were broken. The workmen looked kindly to Mighty. "The Fat Controller has just told us what happened to you," they said, we've told him we've promised to make you look right. "Thank you," said Mighty, and he knew the Fat Controller was right. The next morning, Mighty Mark had to get his paintwork sand scraped for the new repaint. "This is going to be great," said Mighty. "I know," said Mark. "Isn't it wonderful?" Absolutely, said Mighty. "This is going to be fun. At least they'll fix my buffers again." "Exactly," said one of the workmen, and they carried on painting. Later that night, Mighty Mark was also trying to get some sleep at the workshop because there was too many noise. Then Mighty looked from outside the window. A workman was walking around to do something different. "Who's that?" whispered Mighty. "I don't know who he is, but he looks like he's up to something." There Mighty saw was a trail of green troublesome trucks left on the bridge, and the sound of their brakes were beginning to be released. "Why on earth is he releasing the brakes of the trucks?" whispered Mighty. "I don't know," said Mark. He's probably trying to do something to them." And indeed he was. The trucks have had their brakes released, and they were travelling too fast. They travelled too fast, they came off the rails. With that, all of the trucks were broken and derailed, and they were also destroyed. "Oh dear," groaned Mighty. "I don't want him to do the same to me." And with that, they refused to close their eyes for the rest of the evening until dawn returns. Later that morning, the workmen were surprised to see the trucks getting derailed. Then one came to find Mighty Mark feeling very startled. "Thank goodness you're safe," said the workmen. Thank goodness you two weren't involved in the crash." "What's the matter?" he asked. "You two were almost as pale as we saw old Dean Morris." "Who?" said Mighty with confused. "Old Dean Morris was one of the workmen that used to work here," he said. He also invented this workshop," he said. "He was a very proud man, but that day he had enemies of his own. One workman murdered him and was sent to penalty of death," he said. Mighty Mark frowned crossly, but not to the workmen. "That's who I saw," said Mighty. Next he'll do the same to me," he said. "And then he'll look for his killer," he said. "That's him who caused the trouble, all right." "That's a lot of nonsense," laughed the workman. "He would never do such a thing as that," he said. But fortunately, Mighty Mac was right. The man walked away to clean up the mess. Later, Mighty Mark was all alone at the workshop again when he heard a whistle he had already recognised. There was Murdoch puffing next to him. "Hello, Mighty," said Murdoch with surprise. I heard you had I've heard you had an accident the other day, he said. How did it go? But Mighty didn't want to talk about the accident. Actually, he said, as you can see, I may have had my buffers destroyed, but I was scared at the workshop. I saw old Dean Morris the other day, and he caused a lot of trouble, and he looked scary. Then Murdoch burst with laughter. "Oh, Dean Morris," he said. How on earth would he cause all this trouble from last night? He laughed. "He is dead," he said. "He's dead?" said Mighty with confusion. "Yes," said Murdoch. "I don't know who he is, but sure I've heard of his name before," he said. "Oh really?" said Mighty crossly. They were about to explain when the railway inspector came to see them. "Murdoch, you won't be coming back. You won't be coming back until your brakes are mended. And Mighty, your buffer beam is going to be fixed tonight, and the Fat Controller will be wanting you back on service tomorrow." Mighty Mark was pleased and was very happy he was not able to be sleeping at the workshops alone again. With that, the workman worked on his buffer beam, and at last, the double diesel rail car himself was finally mended forever. Night came, and Murdoch and Mighty Mac were all alone. Murdoch went to sleep except Mighty. Mighty was on the lookout for old Dean Morris. He was wondering who his next chaos was going to be this time. But when he looked and searched, he went to sleep. Then he heard the wind whistling. Murdoch soon began to wake up. He yawned. "What's going on?" As he heard someone coming into his cab. He could feel it inside. "Who are you?" barked Murdoch. "Show yourself!" But no one answered. Someone inside him had already fiddled with Murdoch's controls and pulled the lever, and Murdoch was ready to go. But Murdoch didn't want to go. "Help me!" cried Murdoch. I feel like I'm moving. "Mighty!" said Murdoch frightenedly. "Mighty, wake up! Someone's taking me!" But Mighty was still asleep. He then woke up to see the horror. "Help! Help!" cried Murdoch. "Help!" He screamed, and inside him was old Dean Morris. Old Dean Morris then switched Murdoch tender first. "Somebody help me!" he cried, but no one was out to help him. Luckily, a garbage truck had been left on Murdoch's line. Murdoch bashed into the garbage truck. The garbage truck tried to slam on its brakes, but Murdoch was too heavy. At last, the truck stopped Murdoch just in time. "Whew!" groaned Murdoch. "That was close." Then Mighty was about to go out and see if the coast was clear, and all of a sudden he saw someone. Old Dean Morris turned threateningly towards Mighty. Mighty looked away, and by the time the wind blew again, old Dean Morris had disappeared, and Mighty went to sleep while it was safe. Morning came, and the workmen were surprised to see Murdoch with a garbage truck behind him. Murdoch had already looked startled when the workmen came. Mighty Mark had just finished shunting Murdoch into the workshop. "Looks like you'll have to take care of yourself, Murdoch," said Mighty nervously. "No," said Murdoch, "you can't leave me. You can't. You're not going to leave me with the old ghost again." He said. Oh, I'm afraid you're the workshop's last hope, Murdoch," said Mighty Mark. "Take care of yourself," and he puffed nervously away. "No!" cried Murdoch as Mighty Mark left. But a few days later, when he was back online, Mighty Mark was now careful, or he will really have to face the consequences and end up in the workshop with old Dean Morris again, and that was something that Mighty Mark did not want to have.